Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen.
Greetings, old school magic players. Welcome to the Four Horsemen Old School Magic Players group. In today's episode, we're going to be covering another tournament number 20 semi-finals match. Check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com. Tournament number 20 is running April 4th through May 11th. We're in the last stretch of this event, and our tournaments focus exclusively on the original 1993-94 Magic the Gathering expansion sets, Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark. In this format, you see a lot of old school magic cards that don't get to see play in any other format, but which are quite powerful and interesting in Four Horsemen. Check us out at facebook.com/group/4horsemenmtg. Tournament number 20 is in the last stretch, and we're in the semifinals match today. We've got some great prizes, a very unique and spicy banner restricted list, and you're welcome to join us in any of our tournaments. Just check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com. In today's match, Derek Saylor is facing off versus Luke Fetter. Derek is playing his Trapper Keeper deck, built around robots, Tanos Coffin, Drop of Honey, and Spirit Link. And Luke is playing his red-green Erhnam's Minions aggro deck. We've done some deck reviews of both of these decks in our prior videos, so you're welcome to check those out. And this is a really interesting brew that Derek has put together. Derek's been playing with Four Horsemen for quite a while, and this is his first time making it into the semifinals with this very spicy Trapper Keeper brew. This has a lot of powerful Four Horsemen restricted cards across the top row here. The Sylvan, the Land Tax, the Abyss, Dark Heart of the Wood, Greed, Ivory Tower, all those are restricted. Along with some of the utility lands, Workshop, Strip Mine, Diamond Valley, Maze of Ith, Factory, and a nice array of both offense and defensive cards with the Spirit Links, the 3 drops of honey there in the middle, main board Desert Twisters, which allow you to take out anything, Divine Offerings, Brassman, Clockwork Avians, and Triskelions, the all-powerful, probably the single most powerful creature in Four Horsemen, Triskelion. And the Tanos Coffin at the top, which makes the Trapper Keeper deck work. Between the Spirit Links, the Drops of Honey, and the Tanos Coffin, there's a lot of tools that Derek has at his fingertips to really lock down his opponent and get in with his robots. Really versatile sideboard as well that covers being able to handle other robot decks with the Dust to Dusts. Those are very powerful, and the Crumbles. Down there in the lower corner, you see the Tabernacle of Pendril Vale, in case he is going to be tackling some weenie decks. We saw in the earlier matches that this was a pivotal card for Derek. Oubliettes, another Desert Twister. Those 2 cards there below the T20 on the right are custom-made John Eckleberry Arabian Nights comic book artwork Oubliettes. And we give those out to our top players. The other cards that make this deck interesting are those life-gaining Fountains of Youth. These make a difference along with the Ivory Tower and the Dark Heart of the Wood. Derek's got a lot of ways to gain life in this deck, including the Divine Offerings. So the life-gaining engine of drawing with Sylvan Library, and being able to draw with Greed, as well as Land Tax, that one-off Land Tax there is all very powerful. Meanwhile, there's also Abyss and Arborea across the top there that Derek also has in his arsenal to really slow his opponents down. For his opponent, for Luke, Luke is on a very typical Four Horsemen red-green aggro brew. We see a lot of new players coming into Four Horsemen, and this is where a lot of players start. And Luke's pretty new to Four Horsemen, but he also kind of followed that same trajectory. In some of the earlier discussions, he talked about how originally this was just a mono green deck, and in tournament number 18, we had our first mono green Stompy deck that John DeProse took all the way to the championship and won first place with a mono green Stompy deck. Here, Luke's taking most of the best of those cards. I think he's really only missing things like the Spitting Slugs and maybe just a few other things like Gasman Ogre and Killer Bees are some of the cards that we don't see here that were in that deck. Instead, Luke's opting for the Curd Apes, the Chain Lightnings, and the Bloodlust. So really typical spread, and this is a typical red-green brew that we see different variations of for lots of new Four Horsemen players. In Luke's sideboard, it's interesting, he's not running the Sylvan Library main deck. I'd like to see that in the main, but it's in the sideboard. I guess he figures it's better to have more creature aggression, and that's what this deck is all about. But he's also got there's 3 Sandstorms there in case he comes up against other weenie or green stompy aggro decks. If you got a bunch of 1/1s, those Sandstorms can be very strong. And that's a card you never see play in any other format, but here in Four Horsemen can be quite powerful. Desert Twisters has got 3 extras of those. They can take out anything. They're expensive, but one of the few cards in Four Horsemen that's just removal, straight up removal of any other card, any other permanent. The Crumbles are also very functional against other artifact decks and can really be sneaky and surprising. They do gain your opponent life equal to the artifact's cost, but not a big deal when you're facing down things like Felwar Stones and other smaller artifacts. Then there's one Concordant Crossroad there in case he runs into the Abyss. It's restricted in Four Horsemen, so it'd be a 1-for-1 trade. A couple of Avoid Fates, which are sneaky green counterspells that basically can counter an instant or an enchant creature. And a single Falling Star, which is really powerful for board wipes if you're good at flipping. And then a single Artifact Blast. It looks like it's got a signature there. Really cool stuff by Luke. I think he's got some good thinking that he's put into this sideboard. Although I do really think that the Sylvan Library would be better off just in the deck. I do love seeing the 4 Pendlehavens since he's got a ton of 1/1s in his deck. The Elves of Deep Shadow, the Fire Sprites, the Whirling Dervish, and the Scavenger Folk, along with the Emerald Dragonfly. Plus, technically, the Curd Apes are 1/1s if you don't have a mountain in play. So, interestingly, we don't see a ton of red mana in this deck. We only see the 4 Taigas, the 1 Hammerheim, and the 2 City of Brass. So, if we look at the mana base here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic forests. The 4 Pendlehaven makes 11. The 4 Taigas makes 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 lands. Very, 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 very slim land count. And everything else, the other 40 cards, are all aggression. So Luke needs to see in his opening hand a Taiga. If he's gonna, really maximize the Curd Ape, or he needs a Pendlehaven to get, one of his other 1/1s out, which then can be effectively be the same as Curd Apes with the +1/+2 from the Pendlehaven. So I really think it's interesting to see how few lands Luke is running. We typically only see, Four Horsemen decks rarely going below 22 or 23 lands. He does have the elves to help accelerate, but I think one of these lands is a Mazavith even. So, and the other one's a strip mine, which you're going to lose if you use it. So I really kind of think that if we were to look at ways to tweak and improve this deck, that having at least one extra land, maybe just one more mountain, would really be in Luke's favor here. But, you know, he's done extremely well in this tournament, and the guys are going to be joining in the whereby here in just a moment. Meanwhile, if we kind of take a look at the sideboard for Derek, you know, when we think about this matchup, we think about what cards are going to be good to sideboard. You know, Derek's going to have an interesting potential advantage in games 2 and 3 if they go to a 3-game match. If he can get the Greater Realm of Preservation in, this can stop red damage. That will stop things like the Curd Apes and the Chain Lightnings, but there's so much green in Luke's deck that really these Greater Realms are not ideal. If you're facing down Pyrotechnics and Detonates and things like that, the Greater Realm could be more useful. But in this particular matchup, there's so many green creatures that are going to be bearing down on Derek that I don't know if he would even want to sideboard those in. If we think about the ability to take out these weenies, he's got these 3 Drop of Honey plus the 4 Spirit Link, all main deck. And once he gets to turn 3 or 4, turn 4, he can get a Coffin out. And once he gets to turn 5 or 6, if he's got a Workshop or a Felwar, and he can get out a Triskelion, the Triskellion's ability to do damage, do those 1 points of damage, could really hurt Luke. But Luke's got the Pendlehavens, so Luke has a way to defend, at least for one of his creatures, to keep that Triskelion damage from killing it. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly Derek can develop his board. Derek is, he's got 20 lands along the bottom and the 3 savannas plus the factory. So that's 24, but one of those is the Workshop. And then he's got 3 more. He's got lands. He's got the Mazavith, the Diamond Valley. So, 26 lands here is pretty solid. Plus he's got a Felwar Stone up there. So I think Derek should be good on mana. These are custom lands that Derek has made himself. I believe the top row there is, I think those are plains, I'm guessing. And then he's going to have 3 Bayou, it looks like, and 4, looks like scrublands maybe. And then he's got the 3 savannas at the top. And I'm not sure what these other 2 lands are in the middle. Maybe those are black green is the Bayou, green white is the Savannah. So I'm not sure what these 2 red and black lands are in his deck picture here, since they're custom made lands. But really cool brew by Derek, and I think he's got a shot, even though Luke's deck is going to be really, really fast. He's got so many answers between the Spirit Links, the Drops of Honey, the Abyss, the Arborea, and he's got the 3 Brassman here in the middle too. So if he gets a Brassman, that'll be able to stave off at least a few points of damage in the early attacks. And he's got the Mazavith, he's got Ivory Tower to gain life. So I think if he gets an early Brassman, an early Spirit Link, and an early Drop of Honey, or even an early Factory and Maze, he'll be able to probably survive and stabilize. But the drop of honey is so slow that, and Eric has so many, Luke has so many creatures that the drop of honey may not be fast enough. So I think it's going to depend on if Derek also has, a life gain option. Maybe an early land tax ivory tower type scenario could really help him out. For Luke, he's going to be on just the pure aggro strategy. All right, Derek is in the whereby, so I'm going to jump in and we can get started with this match. Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are y'all doing?
I can't complain. Hanging in. How's it going, Derek?
Good.
How'd your revised 40 match go?
I just squeezed it out.
Okay.
I was down to, I don't even remember, like, down to 3, I think.
Okay.
So, I'm playing 12 stone rains. I think it's egg and my black vice got him.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, I just did a quick intro and overviews on your decks. Talked about the sideboards and did a little predictions on who may be able to come out on top here. I want to wish both of you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Yeah. This is gonna be super tough. I mean, I won in the group match actually, but I don't know.
So I believe, if I can recall correctly, I kind of boat raced you one game, you boat raced me one game, and then the third game was very tight, if I recall.
I think it was the first game. Yeah, you had the upper hand. Second game was tight, and then I think the third game you got mana screwed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
It could definitely go either way for sure. Been kicked out of nicer places than this.
Oh, he's still there? Okay.
Yeah. All right, that's enough shoveling for one day.
All right. Middle is good.
Middle's fine for me too.
All right.
I need black. There, I got the matte blacks.
How do you want to do start?
I got an extra dice on the side. You want evens or odd?
I'll do even.
It's odd.
All right. Good luck.
Odd. Yep, you too.
All right, we'll mute the guys here and we'll get started on this semifinals tournament number 20 match. Luke and Derek were just talking about how they faced off in their group matches. And Luke's been able to, and Derek both have been able to battle out the top 16 and the top 8. And now in the semis, they're facing off again. Derek's on the play here, having won the roll, and comes out with a Savannah on turn 1. Derek really wants to see something like the Ivory Tower early, or even an early Factory, or even a turn 1 Brassman. These are the things he really needs to see facing down this deck. And I wanted to ask Derek about this. Hey Derek, I was wondering, what is this land you're playing here?
It's Legends.
What is the land?
It's a homebrewed swamp, Legends.
Oh, that's a swamp.
Yep.
Okay, I couldn't tell what it was in the deck photo. All right, thanks.
Yep. You see the black right there?
All right, so that was a swamp, the red-black land that I couldn't quite tell what it was. He made lands with the Legends symbol on them and is using those in his deck. So black and green and white early for Derek, and early Sylvan Library is extremely strong for him. Meanwhile, Luke is on a first turn Pendlehaven and Scavenger Folk, which is also what he definitely wants to see. Luke attacks for 1 and comes out with a turn 2 Whirling Dervish. So Luke is just going straight in. When you've got the drop of honey hanging around out there and the abyss, the Whirling Dervish are going to be immune to the abyss. And speaking of drop of honey, here it is. You could argue that maybe Luke should just double down on the Pendlehaven to try to see if Derek gets a Spirit Link or a drop of honey. Derek's gotten an extremely strong draw here, getting a turn 2 Sylvan Library and a turn 3 drop of honey. Can Luke keep up with the drop of honey? Will he let his creatures die out and let that drop fade? Probably so. Attacking with the Dervish and the Scavenger Folk, pumping the Whirling Dervish to make it a 2/3, 3 damage total, and bloodlusting, taking damage himself and bloodlusting the Scavenger Folk. So this is 5 damage from the Scavenger Folk and 2 damage from the Dervish. Wow. That is 7 points of damage, plus the Scavenger Folk already hit in the early turn. So we see here why Luke really wanted to get in with that Bloodlust. Wow, 7 damage right on turn 2, bringing Derek down to 12. Okay, on Derek's upkeep, the drop of honey triggers. And it's going to target the Scavenger Folk since the Dervish got a +1/+1 counter at the end of the last turn. Derek playing, I believe that's a Plains, and playing the Abyss. Now, the Abyss is not going to be able to kill the Dervish, but the Abyss is an absolute train wreck nightmare for every other creature card in Luke's deck. Derek getting Abyss, Sylvan Library, drop of honey, all of these early, he could basically not have asked for a more perfect draw here. So this is going to be really tough for Luke. He can get in for 2 more damage with the Dervish, bringing Derek down to 10. He has to play another creature now, or his Dervish will get killed during the upkeep, and he goes ahead and lets the drop of honey take down his Dervish. That is really tough to have to let that drop kill your guy. Meanwhile, Derek plays a Fountain of Youth and a Clockwork Avian. This is really rough for Luke here. Now, Derek's got a 4/4 flyer that is unimpacted by the Abyss. This is the problem with the kind of green stompy, the green weenie aggro, is there are so many cards out there, from Arborea to the Abyss, and so many other cards like Spirit Links, like Drop of Honey. There is a lot in the arsenal for control decks and for creature destruction. This is also why these stompy decks really need to run things like Desert Twister in the main, or even things like Concordant Crossroads or Revelation, an enchant world to be able to get rid of the Abyss. Now, fortunately for Luke, he's able to find a second Whirling Dervish. But here comes Triskelion. Derek has just gotten the perfect draw and the perfect series of cards here, setting him up for just an unbelievable series of plays that are really putting Luke on the back foot. I don't think Luke is going to be able to recover from this the turn 2 Sylvan, the turn 3 Drop a Honey, and the turn 4 Abyss is just going to wreck Luke's deck. He'll need his sideboard desperately to be able to deal with some of these cards. At this point, it's a real tough position for Luke. Anything Luke plays is going to get destroyed by the Abyss, except for his Whirling Dervish. And he just has to pass turn. I think this game is over for Luke, unfortunately. The Triskelion, the Clockwork Avian, both of these are going to be beaten down and doing damage to Luke. The Clockwork Avian can be refilled after, Derek even got his workshop so he could power out that Triskelion. He's gotten so many of the one-of cards that just give him a massive advantage over Luke. Luke playing it out though, making sure he doesn't draw into any answers. Scavenger Folk are no help here. This is where Crumble can be far superior to Scavenger Folk, because once Triskelion is out, the Scavenger Folks will get pinged with the Triskelion damage, and this is where you see Crumbles with the instant speed can be quite superior to the Scavenger Folk. I think Luke is probably wanting to concede here. I know I would be. It's a real tough position to be in. Luke thinking here, trying to see if there's any way that he can figure out of this very difficult spot that he's in. Playing a Chain Lightning, targeting the Triskelion, it's pretty good. Meanwhile, Derek just shoots Luke for 2 and then Divine Offerings his own Triskelion. That gives Derek 6 more life. Meanwhile, Luke strip mines that workshop. And Derek gains 1 more life, tapping 2 for the Fountain of Youth. He's going to be able to draw more cards with his Sylvan Library with that extra life. Thanos Coffin coming down. Derek doesn't really need this at this point, but certainly doesn't hurt. Attacking in for 2 and the Clockwork ticking down to a 1/4 flyer. Derek not running any artifact creatures of his own is in the worst of positions against this Abyss. All of his green creatures, red creatures, will just get destroyed and eaten by the Abyss, so there's really no way for him to come back for this. I don't think he's running Desert Twister's main deck, so he doesn't have a way to destroy the Abyss at all. He'll need his Desert Twisters and his Enchant World. I think he had a Concordant Crossroad in order to be able to deal with something like the Abyss. This is where you can make the argument that, with all the Pendlehavens and Erhnam Djinns and all your 1/1 dudes, you can make the case for running, a couple Concordant Crossroads main deck just so that things like this can't happen. All right, so Luke concedes. Derek crushing and dominating in this match number 1. Wow, really brutal beating for Luke, but credit to him, he didn't give up. He fought it out. He got a strip mine. He was able to chain that Triskelion, but the Clockwork Avian and the Abyss the drop of honey, the Sylvan Library made it really, really hard for Luke. Okay, so let's take a look at Luke's sideboard. I really think he needs this Sylvan Library in the deck, main deck. It should not be in the sideboard. Those 3 Desert Twisters obviously need to come in. The Concordant Crossroad also needs to come in. And, you know, knowing that Derek is on robots, these 3 crumbles and that Artifact Blast all need to come in. So he's got 1 Sylvan Library, 3 Desert Twisters, 3 crumbles, and an Artifact Blast. You know, that's 8 cards. So if we look at his main deck, what 8 would he take out? Well, I don't think he's going to be fast enough with the Spirit Links and the Drops of Honey, and plus Derek's got Oubliettes. I don't think that the Bloodlusts are worth it because his creatures are going to be getting zapped. So I would pull out the 4 Bloodlust. The Chain Lightning is not going to help him very often against any of the robots except for those Brassmen, and he can take those out. So honestly, I would take out the Chain Lightnings and the Bloodlusts. That's 8 cards. I'd put in the 3 Desert Twisters, the Sylvan Library, and I'd put in the 3 Crumbles and the Artifact Blast. If Derek can be held back and kept off his artifacts,
I got booted. I don't know what happened.
then maybe he'll be able to handle the onslaught from Derek. For Derek, I don't know that Derek really needs to sideboard much at all. I mean, the Sandstorms could be good, but Luke has Pendlehaven, so I think for Derek, he would just sideboard in the Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. And would he even bother sideboarding anything out? I don't really think so. I mean, pretty much everything in his main deck is good. I wouldn't even bother with the Greater Realms. I think I would just sideboard in the Tabernacle, and what would I take out? Maybe I just sideboard out that Felwar Stone and call it a day. Let's see if the guys are back. Yes, they are. All right, the guys are shuffling back up for game 2. Let's switch back over. Okay, so hopefully Luke doubled down on his Desert Twisters and his Sylvan and his Crumbles and his Artifact Blast. You know, having all that anti-artifact hate could really give him the advantage. He can take out the Clockwork Avians, he can take out the Brassmen, he can take out the Tana's Coffin, and a turn 1 Taiga Kurdape. This is great for Luke. This is what he wants to see. If he can get something like a Sylvan Library next turn, start drawing some extra cards. Drop of Honey coming out on turn 1 for Derek. Jesus, this is so rough for Luke. He's only going to be able to get in for 1 hit with that Kurdape, and the drop is going to just take it down. Hitting in for the Kurdape for 1, for 2. Taking Derek to 18. Hammerheim coming down. And Luke can't play anything here because the Drop of Honey will just kill whatever creature he plays. So that Drop of Honey taking down that Kurdape, wow. You know, getting that on turn 1 is really strong. And now Derek plays Strip Mine and strips the Taiga. Ouch. That is rough for Luke. If he doesn't have green mana, he's going to be in a world of hurt. He does get a City of Brass. That is very fortunate. Takes a damage and comes down with Sylvan Library. That is great to see. Luke sighted that in and is able to draw it early. So Luke at 19, Derek at 18. Derek ended up putting in the Greater Realm of Preservation. Now, as I was saying earlier, I don't think that this is a great choice at all. There's no black in Luke's deck, and all of his creatures are green except for the Curd Apes. So the Greater Realm of Preservation is not really ideal. It's only going to prevent Chain Lightning and Curd Ape damage. I don't know if I agree with Derek's choice of siding this in, but he did side it in. Luke just electing to take one off of Sylvan, I don't like that. I think if Luke is going to be having a shot at this game, he's got to go as aggressive as possible. I would be drawing extra cards, and Elves of Deep Shadow coming down, taking another damage from the City of Brass. That Sylvan allowed Luke to dig and find a Taiga, which is invaluable here. And we are just banking and hoping that Derek does not find another drop of honey here. It looks like he passes turn. Okay, Luke remembering to Sylvan, always important to do that. I put a dice or something, a glass bead or something on the top of my deck to remind me usually. But I'm not a great player and have to do things like that. Okay, so Luke, again, only taking one. I really think he could dig in here, draw extra cards. Meanwhile, Derek is paying a green. Oh my god, he sideboarded in the Sandstorm. And Derek is able to Sandstorm away both of the 1/1 green creatures. Wow. And meanwhile, Luke plays another Scavenger Folk in Argothian Pixie. Derek having all the answers here with the Sandstorm early. Oh my god, and now another drop of honey. Jesus. This is so rough for Luke. The pressure that Luke is trying to apply is getting countered by every turn and every play that Derek makes. That drop of honey, a cool proxy there, but it's going to wipe out Luke's army. Here, I'd be taking extra cards, yeah. He's only, well, nope. He's putting 2 back on top. There's the Pendlehaven. He really needed that in the last turn. He's able to attack for 4 damage total. And here, the drop of honey is going to trigger on Derek's upkeep. And now Luke's green stompy army continues to get whittled away. Not fun, and very frustrating, I'm sure, for Luke to be in this situation. Meanwhile, Derek, in command and control here, not really too worried about these weenies. The Scavenger Folk's going to die on the upkeep here, and Derek will be on turn 5. Will he get 5th mana? No. He just passes turn. Luke has another dig with the Sylvan Library here. I'm really wondering why he's not taking extra cards. Paying that life and drawing those cards is probably one of the only ways he's going to be able to pull out of all of the all the creature hate that Derek has thrown down. The Sandstorms, the drops of honey. Okay, so the drop triggers on Derek's upkeep, takes out the Pixies. Derek is down to 12. Oh. Now this is another problem card for Luke. This is another reason why he needs all 3 of those Desert Twisters and the Concordant Crossroads. Arborea, if you don't play a card, players can't attack. So Derek can elect not to put anything in play next turn, and nothing can attack him. So here, Luke really needs to go all in. If I were Luke, I would be at probably 8 life right now, having drawn more and more cards. Scavenger Folk coming down, Pixies coming down. I don't like this play at all. Luke is going to be vulnerable to another drop of honey, and he can't attack with these guys. So why have them in play when another drop is imminent down the road? I would have at least held off on not playing the Pixie. I could see a potential reason to play the Scavenger Folk. Maybe you can kill an artifact. Luke needs to be digging for cards. He needs to be playing lands, and he needs his Desert Twisters, which I really hope he sideboarded in here, along with that Concordant Crossroad. He's got 4 outs to get rid of this Arborea at some point down the road. But Derek, meanwhile, can just draw cards, sit back, and do nothing. Luke playing a Dragonfly. I don't know about this move. Drop of Honey comes down. It's going to start eating everybody up. I really kind of feel like Luke should be cognizant of that. Maybe he has the Desert Twister in hand and he just needs to get a few more land. But drop can come down for 1 green at any time, and it's really a high risk for him. Meanwhile, Derek just doesn't do anything, draws cards, sit-backs, and is protected by his Arborea. I'm wondering why Luke is not drawing. Derek's got no threats on board. He can't attack with his own Arborea in play either. So I'm wondering what is preventing Luke from just taking extra cards, trying to get into more mana and Desert Twisters. That's what I would be doing. A single draw for Luke, and looks like he's just passing. Derek draws. Sure, he's not going to play anything, and passes turn. I mean, I guess you have to be cognizant of Triskelion and not going too low. Luke gets to his 5th mana here. If he had been drawing and digging and drawing more with the Sylvan, he would be at lower life, but he could have easily been at 6 mana already. And if he did have the Desert Twisters, that would allow him to get rid of this Arborea. Maybe that's what he's thinking behind his rationale here. There's 2 more drops of honey that he's got to watch out for, so he's just banking that those are not going to come down. Derek may be forced to play a card at some point, and then that will open up the ability for Luke to attack. But Derek could be holding another one of those sandstorms. He had 2 sandstorms in his sideboard, so he ends up playing the Mishra's Factory, and here's the drop of honey. This is exactly what I was worried about for Luke, but at least he may get an attack in here. But the factory can block. He can activate Scavenger Folk to kill it. Still not taking any extra cards. I'm really surprised to see this. He's got the Pendlehaven, so he can save potentially 1 creature from Sandstorm attack. So coming in with everyone, if Derek reaches down and taps a green, that would be brutal for Luke. But knowing he played the drop of honey, he's probably not going that route. He doesn't really want to activate. Oh yes, he does want to activate his factory. I'm really surprised Luke's attacking with the Scavenger Folk here. If he sideboarded in a crumble, he may be able to crumble that factory if he's got it. Otherwise, if he didn't have the crumble, I would not have attacked with the Scavenger Folk. I would have held it back. And if Derek tries to animate that Mishra's Factory, you just blow it up. I don't know if this is a play error on Luke's part or if he's got other answers. Let's find out. What is Derek doing? Derek must be looking at deck photos or something. So is he going to... What is he going to do here? Let's listen in and see what's going on.
So it'd be 5.
Yep. I'm 7.
And pass with 3 in hand.
Alright, I'm gonna untap, drop triggers on.
All right, so Derek, thinking maybe Luke might have had a crumble. He wants to get to 6 mana and get his Triskelion out, I believe. Drop a honey triggers, he kills the scavenger folk. And now Derek is electing to attack with the factory. And there's the crumble, just as we had hoped, and Derek also suspected. He doesn't gain any life for that. I'm really surprised to see Derek attacking with the factory there. He hasn't played a card this turn, so that means that that Luke cannot attack again. So drop a honey is just going to take out creature after creature. I'd really like to see Luke drawing some more cards here. You know, if he did leave the Bloodlusts in, the Bloodlust could still get in for damage. I wonder if he elected to do that. Tapping the Pendlehaven to play another Pendlehaven. So he pumps his Emerald Dragonfly. No. Yes, okay. He's tapping it for mana, and he's doing the Desert Twister on the Arborea. That takes out Arborea, and now these guys can attack. Nice play by Luke. Great to see that Desert Twister sided in, and the crumbles. Looks like that Luke was doing exactly what we were talking about. Drop a honey triggers. That's going to take out the Dragonfly. And Derek is going to probably hit his 5th mana here. He's got a full grip of 7 cards. There's his custom swamp that he made. I'm really surprised he just passed his turn. Here, you know, you'd think normally you'd see Clockwork Avian or a Tawnos Coffin or something. Derek clearly doesn't have it. But also he may want to let the Drop of Honey finish off the creatures that are in play. If Luke could find a way to just draw all these cards, play 2 or 3 creatures, he can survive the drop for a few more turns. Would that be enough? We got to dodge Sandstorm. We got to dodge Triskelion. Triskelion is going to come out probably next turn. So he does take extra card and brings him down to 12 with Derek at 4. Now here we have the Sandstorm coming in again. Wow. Derek not waiting for Drop of Honey. Drop is now immediately destroyed. Drop of Honey is destroyed. Meanwhile, Luke plays Scavenger Folk and Whirling Dervish. Okay, so Luke had an interesting plan here. He was able to dig and get that Desert Twister, and he's able to draw extra cards and able to get a couple more creatures into play. He is doubling down now that that other Sandstorm, I think, is gone. He's not too worried about that, but oh, this is risky because Triskelion could come down and wipe out all 3 of these guys, and that's exactly what Derek is doing. Jesus. Oh, that's why you got to leave that Pendlehaven up and open. I think that was a real misplay on Luke's part. He could have easily not played all 3 creatures, left the Pendlehaven up. He could have protected one of his creatures. That was not a great play from Luke, knowing that Derek was going to hit 6 mana. He's got 4 Triskelion, 7 cards in hand. You can't take that risk. You got to play around these things. Really, really tough to see that Triskelion come down and wipe out Luke's army. Luke does get another Whirling Dervish. And at least the Triskelion is a 1/1 for now, but Now Derek will be playing his Tawnos Coffin, and he does play Dark Heart of the Wood here. And Clockwork Avian. Wow, this is going to be a real problem for Luke. Even though Derek's at 4, suddenly he's got Dark Heart and he can sacrifice forests and gain 3 life. I think this play error on Luke's part of not anticipating the Triskelion was a huge mistake. And unfortunately, I think it's going to cost him this match. Although, you know, if Clockwork was coming out the very next turn along with Dark Heart, it probably wouldn't have mattered. The Clockwork's a 4/4 flyer, and Triskelion can block. Maze of Ith coming down for Luke. That is a card he could have sideboarded out, hoping to get something more aggressive, but I think it's looking really bad for Luke here, unfortunately. Derek's deck is so strong. He's been able to survive, and now he's got enough forest. Derek playing Desert Twister of his own, taking out that Maze of Ith. And attacking with the Clockwork Avian for 4 in the air. And that brings Luke down to 7. Wow, the Maze of Ith would have been a nice way for Luke to buy himself some time, but Derek had the Desert Twister for it. Derek's had all the answers. Drops of Honey, Sandstorms, Desert Twisters, Strip Mine. You got to feel for Luke here. He's really given it his all. I think that there's been a couple of play mistakes where Luke could have opted to play differently, but it's always different when you're in the game and when you can't see the player's hand. Emerald Dragonfly coming down can possibly serve as a blocker for a turn to keep that Clockwork Avian at bay. Luke just passing turn here. It's looking really tough for Luke. Derek's playing another Triskelion, and that Clockwork Avian is going to be hitting in. The Triskelion gets in, and Luke takes a few more damage, going down to 3. Derek is just in command and control here with his robot army and his Dark Heart life gain. And that is the game. Wow. What a tough match for Luke. But hats off to Luke for making the semis. And congrats to Derek.
But like I said, I knew this was going to be super tough because even though I got you last time, it was by the skin of my teeth. So.
My other card in hand was a Tawnos Coffin, so even if I don't think you could have drawn your way out of it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
After I stabilized with the Dark Heart, and then you had 1 turn to draw Pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
If you have one.
I don't play with them.
Oh, shit.
But this was originally just going to be mono green. And then at the last minute, I decided to kind of throw in some reds, so.
Yeah, that Greater Realm, too, just to prevent the red damage, is sometimes enough.
Yeah.
Sandstorm.
Wow, that was a tough game, Luke.
Yeah.
That was rough, man. I think that there was a few different things that you may have been able to play differently, but Derek had, I mean, Derek's game one was unbelievably brutal with,
Yeah.
Sylvan Library on turn 2, Drop of Honey on turn 3, and the Abyss on turn 4. Like, anyone is going to die to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was able to library into the Abyss. That's what did it.
Yeah, that was really rough. And those sandstorms, man, those things are brutal.
Best sideboard card of the tournament. It's been every time. Every time.
All right, Derek, so you're going to be going on to the finals. Congrats, man.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great.
And Luke, congrats for making it to the semis, man. That's a pretty respectable tournament track record anyway with your red green aggro deck.
Yeah. I mean, overall I was pretty happy with it. Definitely will do some things a little differently if I decide to play it again. But yeah, I was pretty happy with it. Yeah, I can't really complain too much.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coordinating with me on the time, and congrats, Derek. This will be your first Four Horsemen finals.
Yep, sure is. Thanks, Chad.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
All right, take it easy. Good luck, Derek. Bye.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Well, that was a really tough match for Erhnam's minions, and hats off to Luke making it all the way to the semis with this red-green aggro deck. Did a really great job. Derek's Trapper Keeper emerges victorious, and Derek will be moving on to the semis. Virgilio is going to be playing Alex, and the winner of that match will face off against Derek in the upcoming Tournament 20 finals. Please check out our next tournament. Go to fourhorsemenmagic.com and either on the homepage or go to tournaments and click on Tournament 21 under current tournaments, and you can check out this really spicy and interesting event. We are returning to the wild, wild west of the original early days of Four Horsemen. In June of 2022 is when we started this format. And in tournament number 1, we had a completely different banned and restricted list. And for tournament 21, we're going to go back to that original banned and restricted list. We took a poll, the players voted, and everybody wants to try this out. We have a ton of new players in the Four Horsemen lately, and they did not get to experience the Wild Wild West original early days with this crazy banned and restricted list. So we're going back to only Library of Alexandria, City in a Bottle, Arena of the Ancients, and Golgothian Silex as the only restricted cards. The banned cards are just the anti-cards plus Shahrazad, so all the crazy powerful cards, Mana Drain, Strip Mines, Mishra's Workshop, Factory, Moats, Sylvan Libraries, Diamond Valleys, all these cards are all unrestricted, and it's going to be wild. Join us for tournament number 21 and play in this Spice event. We've got some great prizes for our top finalists and our champion. And check out the tournament details at fourhorsemenmagic.com. Thanks for joining us for this Tournament 20 semifinals match, and we'll see you next time.